I want to walk back some
Go
of
ahead.
that stuff just to
Sure.
revisit. So there were some polls that were out last week or the week before that had some upticks in it that were post bombing. That's typical of what you'd see when anybody shows leadership, even if it's whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. People like people that take charge. So any of those polls, there was some dips up.
By the way, it's Senator Murphy from Connecticut. I'm sorry.
Okay, so economic stuff is still a mixed bag. We just don't know until these tariffs kick in. I know we're going to get to that in a little bit. There was an announcement today. So, all this hasn't quite been baked in enough yet for the consumer in terms of the economy. But the polls that I've been seeing most recently in the last few days have him or some of them are the worst polls for him ever. So it's
Where have you
interesting.
been
Some
seeing the
pollsters are a
polls,
little
Scott?
higher, some of
Where are
them
you
a lot
seeing them?
lower.
Where are you
I
seeing
can
them?
do. Well,
MSNBC, the
no,
Los Angeles Times.
I get most of my news on the wire services because they have journalistic standards. I don't watch opinion networks.
According to who?
I do occasionally to see
According
what
to
Fox
whom?
is saying, to see what MSNBC or CNN are saying. But I
like
don't like
News
all
Nation.
the opinion things
I
because it's
like
like
News
I
Nation.
have my own opinions. News
I feel
Nation
like
is
News
okay.
Nation's giving me a good middle
They're
ground.
they're trying to give a good middle ground, and I applaud them for that. Yeah, I agree. But there's so many polls out, and a lot of them are going in a different direction. So it's hard to get a sense of which ones are really,
Okay,
true.
but who is the let's get to the leadership question. Who is the leadership for the Democrats that is going to lead
Yep.
them out of the morass here? Who's
Yeah, it's
actually
interesting.
going? Is it Hakeem Jeffries?
He's trying. I think
He's
that
trying.
here's the problem with the Democrats. The Democrats, and this is typical of them. They sort of stand around and wring their hands and say, "Well, when they go low, we go high." Well, that's not getting you anything right now, guys. It's like they're just like sort of like talking a lot. That's the impression. And I know behind the scenes they're probably doing stuff, filing paperwork or lawsuits and this and that. It's not getting them anywhere with the public with their opinion polling. What the public seems to want right now is real leaders going out rattling pans and trying to be aggressive. And that's what they're seeing from the Republicans, especially from Trump, and that's what they're responding to. And the more the Democrats appear to be sitting on the sidelines, the more they're going to get left behind. So what's interesting is I think we're just starting to see now the rumblings of that changing. You're seeing people like Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, come out swinging. You're seeing other people, and his approval numbers have been going up because of that. And you're starting to see a lot of other people. Hakeem Jeffries is a good example, although he has to sort of stay buttoned up. But he's trying to be more vocal. The same thing with the socialist guy in New York who just won the mayor.
Mamdani.
These are people that are willing to break, glass as a bull in the china shop, and that's what people are responding to.
But this is part of the problem. Exactly. Mamdani, AOC, Bernie Sanders will get plenty of attention, but it's not going to play well in Dubuque, Iowa.
Correct.
It's not going to play well in Truman, Minnesota, or in some places in Wisconsin. There are going to be people that look at Mamdani, AOC, and Sanders and say, these people are socialist. They're idiots.
Yeah, and that's why Sanders has never won wide election. He's always sort of gotten a little bit of attention and a lot of it in certain blue states, but he can't win a nationwide
He's
election.
a senator
Nobody
from
can.
Vermont.
Comes off being
It has
socialist.
a population of 3 people.
Right.
And
anybody with a sort of a socialist platform, it all sounds great, but at the end of the day, most of this country and the way it's wired, people don't want to share everything. They just want they want their Social Security, they want their Medicaid, Medicare, and they want social safety nets for their grandpa, but they're not, people are just out to make a living and they need to care about their family first. They don't care about this higher ground. Some of them do, most of them don't. So you can't win a general election when most of the people aren't understanding what the hell you're saying about sharing this, that, and the other thing and being more like Denmark, right? So
they have to read history books too. They have to read
Yeah.
history books and see how communism and socialism have worked out.
Yeah. People forget about that. Exactly. It never works.
Does not have a
Never.
good track record.
Never works. No. What
We
works
should
is
say
moderation.
abysmal.
Moderation. Be in the middle, guys. Be in the middle. Speak for everyone. Make agreements swallow bitter pills occasionally when you have to for good legislation. Just keep the economy moving along and keep the government, keep the military strong. That's all you have to do.
Let's go in. Let's go into a different subject, which is now talking about leadership in other places around the world that are not exactly aligned with the United States in certain cases, although President Trump certainly has threatened some of these countries the last week and made it known if they take a anti-American position and are members of BRICS, of whom I'm going to talk about now, they will be penalized. Now, there are American allies now in BRICS, which is interesting. And I'll bring up that point in a little bit. My problem with BRICS is that not only do I disagree with some of the fundamental principles of the organization, but I don't think I have to be, as someone who leans towards the West, and I admit I do, afraid of what BRICS is going to do, certainly not in the short or midterm, because I think BRICS has gotten too big now. It has 12 members now. It has a host of other nations that are being allowed to monitor, visit, and talk to the group. But my point about BRICS is that it now has countries that don't see eye to eye within the group. And that's going to basically cause, as it gets bigger and expands, a lack of unison. You have Ethiopia and Egypt in the group. Those two countries do not see eye to eye. They threaten each other time to time. You have India, you have Iran. And actually, while I see that China and Russia, both of which Putin did not attend and Xi did not attend the BRICS meetings in Rio de Janeiro last weekend, Putin because he has something hanging over his head called an international arrest warrant, and Xi because there are political questions going on right now, overshadowing the political situation in China. But point about this is that Trump comes out and says, hey, if you show us an anti-American stance right now, we're going to add 10% to whatever we already want to charge you with the tariffs. And Trump, the deadline was on the 9th of July, as we predicted. He pushed it back immediately about 2 days before that to August the 1st. But let's let you speak here. He's getting loud now again about the tariffs. He's threatened the EU, Canada, South Africa, Brazil with like 35% tariffs right now. He's even talking fairly insolently towards Japan. And Japan's probably wondering, what the hell is going on here?
Of course. Everybody's wondering that.
Well,
but it's when our dearest, or our closest allies wonder that, and that's when you have to start to worry, because that's when they're like, okay, temporarily until this administration's gone, we're just going to make side deals with other countries and we'll maintain our bottom line that way. This will all blow over. Well, guess what? 4 years later, 3.5 years later, those little side deals aren't so temporary anymore. Now it's complicated to unwind those little side deals, and now you have America trying to say, hey, we're back. Don't worry, we're nice guys again. We love our partners. We're getting rid of all these different tariffs, bringing it down to 2.5% like it always was before, except in some circumstances. And let's do business. Well, all of a sudden it's harder to do business. And so meanwhile, you have all these small businesses that have had to eat all this stuff for 3.5 years, have gone out of business. So a lot of them can no longer import whatever it was they were getting before. It's just a big mess. It's a mess in the making, and it's going to hurt our economy, and it's going to hurt the consumers. But, that's just common sense. We all know that already. As for let's go back to the BRICS question you had, though. Remember, BRICS has, generally speaking, one objective, and that is to create a currency that would become the world's reserve currency and replace the dollar.
They've stopped talking about that the last year and a half.
But that's
long term, that might be their goal. They've wanted as a trading bloc where they can work outside of U.S. controlled specter.
Yeah, right.
So South Africa can trade with China, Iran can trade with Russia.
Right, I know all that.
India is part of this. Ethiopia, Egypt, Saudi Arabia is now a like visiting nation. I don't know if they've accepted full
Yeah,
membership
but
yet.
here's the point. Whatever their current objective is, and whatever their overall objective is, if
Mhm.
they are reaching closer to that objective, I think, to your point, I think a lot of these nations will sort of bury the sword temporarily and say, okay, let's just see this through and let's get stronger. And then later on, I think, is when you'll see them sort of come apart. If they're able to garner more power, if their reserve currency, and it does in fact wind up eating away
Well,
at the dollar's power, or
that
if they create larger trading, if they create trading blocks that are strengthened,
wasn't.
eventually, yes, it'll fall apart. But I don't think it's going to quite yet.
This is an excellent point, and this is a real politic viewpoint that you just expressed, and I appreciate it because China is certainly playing a long game. Russia may be playing a long game also. China doesn't really care about the outcome for the next 3 or 5, maybe 10 years. 15 years from now,
Yeah.
20 years from now, if America keeps running a deficit of trillions of dollars and suddenly starts having problems 10, 20 years down the line of not being able to pay off all the debt it owes to people from
Mm-hmm.
all of its bonds, then you could see the US dollar wobble. If the US dollar starts to wobble and the Saudis and a few other oil producers say, we don't need to have crude oil priced in US dollars anymore, we can do it in the euro, or we could do it in the BRICS currency, then that's a game changer. And I agree with you. They could play the long game, not worry about it, wait for Trump to leave the White House. Maybe you have 8 years advance. There is a long game being played, and part of the tariffs are certainly factored into some of this. By the way, I want to bring up a point about the tariffs. There's been no conclusive proof that inflation has happened yet because of the tariffs being in effect already. And what some of that comes down to is the fact that nations, or so some economists I've heard argue this, have been saying that what nations are doing are eating the 10, 15, 20% loss on the tariffs willingly because they made such a profit selling into the United States that they're willing to take the hit of 10 to 20% and not boost prices and not lose market share. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. That's going to factor also into Jay Powell's decision. We argued about this last week. With all the tariff nonsense coming up here, the FOMC meeting is still at the end of this July. Surely Powell's not going to have any clarity as of
Mm-hmm.
July 30th. Okay. August 1st is supposedly the new deadline. I don't know if you've heard this. Trump understands from a legal standpoint he can't get rid of based on
Right.
policy decisions. But apparently what they're trying to go after Powell on right now are renovation costs. I'm not making this up.
Yeah,
In
I
the
read about
Federal
this. Yeah.
Reserve building in
Right.
DC.
Right.
Apparently the Federal Reserve has major renovation going on there. And so I've read, I don't know if it's true. Millions of dollars worth of what some people are calling obscene renovation.
I think, and I mentioned this last week. I think that if he keeps tacoing, if Trump keeps like saying a deadline and then moving the uprights or whatever analogy you want to give it,
Mm-hmm.
the markets sort of become numb to all this, and they're just like, okay, well, wake us when it's over. We'll just keep doing our job, and so you don't have this immediate like panic anymore.
Reactions. Yeah, yeah,
Reactions.
yeah.
Now, when those kick in and they're official, then you'll start seeing more of that because people will suddenly say, "Oh, wait, wow, it's real now." At the same time, you have a lot of companies that pre-bought a whole lot of merchandise and are still going through their inventory. Not all of them. Some of them have already gone through it, so we are
Mm-hmm.
seeing prices eke up in certain segments, especially things like appliances, electronics, things like that. But I think where you're going to see it more so is we're going to have a double hit where maybe it's August 1st, or maybe he'll switch it another 2 weeks or 2 months or 3 months or whatever. But let's say it's August 1st. I think you're going to start seeing prices about that time go up anyway, because mostly what I've read is it's just people think they're going to get through their existing inventory in the summer. It also takes a month for a cargo ship to move stuff over here. So some stuff has only arrived recently and they're selling that for the current prices.